Day is a beautiful day.
Howard one, oh here you are. It's a little clippy. Oh God, there's bugs. I just want to let you know that I aged 10 years. And my dog maybe aged 5.
No, 5 human years or 5 dog years? What are we
Yeah,
talking
like,
about?
I just want to really, can we pray about this? Can I touch your shoulder? Did you hear what they were doing at the middle school? They are putting the kids in portable buildings. I can't even.
Please tell me these are real conversations you've had.
And they're not even beautifying them or anything. They're just throwing them in there like they're regular old kids. Don't they know this is the suburbs?
Cool, let's do it. So, I'm here with my friend Danielle Noonan. I was actually thinking back last week, trying to figure out when we met.
Back.
I don't remember how we met, but I remember the first thing we did was that event at the U of H Newman Center.
Yes.
You know, like you came
with the glazes.
You brought Lisa, and then I think we did that twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with the glazes.
But I don't remember how we actually met, or if like I got in contact with you through someone.
I don't know.
Could have been Will. I feel like Will Hickle would have given me your number.
I don't know. It's all a blur. It's all a blur.
Yeah. I usually like to start off with like who you are. So I already got your name, but like where are you from?
I've been trying to figure that out for years. Who am I?
Yeah. Where are you from? What your family looks like? What do you do?
What do I do? I am from originally East Texas, little town in East Texas, 3,000 people. So when I moved to Austin for college, it was like big city. So that was frightening and terrifying.
It's our favorite city.
Yeah, it's great. And then my husband and I moved here. Chris, he's the best. You know.
You all met there, right?
Uh-huh.
At school?
Yeah. Met when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
He was 20. We got married when I was 22. So like, I was still in college. I did the 5.5-year plan.
I did the 6
Solid.
plus years, so.
Solid. We haven't told our kids that yet. You don't think about that when you have to like pay for someone's college, you know? But now I'm like, I don't know if I should tell my kids that I've spent 5.5 years in college.
Don't tell them that. Just be like, hey guys, you don't need to go to college.
Yeah, you don't
Here's
need
some other routes.
You don't need to do what mommy did. Do you?
What did you go to college for?
Religious studies.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I get to use my degree-ish now. I'm a musician, worship leader, and full-time mom, full-time wife, full-time musician.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Kids.
3. Gosh, I cannot begin to tell you what it is like to have a 13-year-old.
3
boys.
So
3 boys, 13, 11, almost 9, and they're just the sweetest.
They really are. They're wild. They're like super
sweetest.
Sweet. Like,
I just adore them.
Yeah.
I just adore them. Like I just want to.
Yeah. So last time I was here, I was helping y'all move.
Yep.
Which I actually thought was me for a long time, but it was only for like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But and hopefully if we have time we'll get a tour. But what was the purpose of the renovation? That's going to lead us to where you're trying to get.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, let me tell you.
How much time you got?
We had mold. And the mold was making me super sick. And we didn't know that we had mold. I had been going to doctors for like ever and ever and ever. And it all started because I went into anaphylaxis about like 3.5 years ago. And
that is?
I had like a severe allergic reaction where my throat started to close up.
Uh-huh.
And I was actually in the car with Chris. He has like every other Friday off. So we're in the car running errands because that Friday I had to leave for a confirmation retreat to lead. So we're just, hanging out, having a date in the afternoon, and all of a sudden, like in his truck, I was just like super hot and just whoosh. And I was like, something's like wrong. All of a sudden, like I was having trouble breathing, and I was like...
Had you like just left the house, or you had been gone for a while?
We had been gone. We were just like going towards town, and we were very, very close to an emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
So he like floored it and got me to an emergency room. And like as soon as like I got in, they were just like whoosh. They were like filling me with all kind of medicines. And I called my friend Chris Frank, and I was like, dude, I don't think I can go on this retreat. Mm-hmm. We have a problem. And right after that, I just thought, I had a couple days where I was like, oh man, like I feel really, really terrible. And my brain was like, it was just super, super foggy, and I never got better. Mm-hmm. Like I never got better. It was just this really weird, I just kept thinking like, I guess I'm just always gonna like feel like this. This
like
is
the
so
fogginess
weird.
Never got better?
Yeah, I just thought it was because, of the allergic reaction. And then I realized like something is really, really wrong. And so for about 3.5 years, I was in and out of the hospital and with doctors, and they were like, well, maybe you have, lupus, maybe you have this, maybe you have that. No one can figure it out. And all of my blood work, it would change drastically from, 1 month to the next. So no one could like pinpoint what exactly was wrong. And there was clearly something wrong. But no one could figure it out.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, I'm trying to work and write and be a mom, and it was just crazy. So fast forward to about 6 months ago, a girlfriend of mine sent me a text because I was in the hospital in Nashville, and I came back and I just knew, I'm like, something is like I think I'm dying. Like, what is going on? And one of the doctors was checking in on me. He was just the nicest guy. He was an immunologist. And he was like, you really need to go to get checked for like leukemia, because, some of your blood work is off. Like, maybe that's it. And I'm thinking like, okay, like this is going to be a really, really crazy road, or like this is the way I'm going, you know? And she sent me a text and said, have you ever heard of something called mast cell, which is where you have, severe allergic reactions all the time? She's like, it pairs with like an autoimmune disease that I have, and I just check it, look into it. And I really trusted her because her husband's in the medical field, she's in the medical field. And I was like, okay. So I called her doctor, who's about an hour and a half away from me. Mm. And I booked an appointment, and you just have to book like so far out in advance. And I was so excited to I just felt like she's going to give me answers, which is something I had like prayed and prayed and prayed for, just to like prepare her heart, for answers. And she like comes into the room, and she's like this little small like older woman, and she's just like ready to get going because I'd uploaded like all my blood work and like all my everything for her to look at. And she was like, I can just tell from this blood you have just like been through the ringer. I was like, I have been through the ringer.
Did you just break down like, you're right?
I was like, yes. She's like, we're gonna get you better.
Yeah.
We're going to do this together. I was like, okay. And she's like, I really think this might be mold related. And I was like, mold related? Mm. That's weird. Okay. And I kind of like side-eyed her for a little bit. I'm like, really? Like, mold? And so she did blood work and all this stuff. And in the meantime, I'm like, of course, like trying not to Google,
too much
mold related illness or whatever, but like looking at just like mold and water damaged buildings in general, and looking at some of the information that she gave me, I was like, like this sounds like me, because I was having severe like neurological problems, like musculoskeletal stuff where like my arms wouldn't work or I couldn't walk. Or
I remember that you're like in bed for a while. Like,
I would be bedridden, and I would just have like zero energy. I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't chop vegetables to like make dinner, things like that, where it's like I couldn't live. Like we were hiring people to come in and like make dinner for us because like I couldn't do it, or having people like pick up the kids because I couldn't drive because I was so blurry and like like you didn't want me on the road. And so we started to walk around the house, and sure enough, like we looked up in our master closet and the vents, and we have high ceilings, so it's like you don't look at the ceilings, when you're walking around all the time, and there's just mold like all on the vents. And I was like, oh boy. And some of the blood work that they did was genetic testing to see if I had like genetic markers for like mold susceptibility, and sure enough, they were like, yeah. So my body can't process mold like normal people. They should like basically like 75% of people can be in like a moldy environment, and they may like not feel great, but their body can flush out all the toxins, and my body just can't do that. So I was essentially sitting in a moldy environment because I work from home if I'm not traveling.
Yeah.
So I was sleeping in a room with tons of mold, and
You had no idea.
everywhere I was, I was just being filled with mold toxins. So we were like, and immediately there, when I told her, I was like, there's mold in the vents, and she's like, you have to leave right now. She's like, don't keep anything. She's like, grab some clothes, leave the house like right now. Right now. And I was like, we can't do that.
When was that? Like how long ago was that?
That was November.
Okay.
That was November. So for, November, December, January, like we just had to figure out like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like, how are we supposed to do this? How are we supposed to?
Yeah, we can't just up and leave, like.
Yeah, because the whole problem is that like you cannot start treatment until you're out of the moldy environment. So because
otherwise it's a waste.
It's a waste, but you will also make yourself like extremely ill.
Yeah. Like
incredibly ill, because you're just pouring this stuff into your body, but you're not able to, flush it out because it's just like, you're not in a safe environment for your body. So yeah, we just had to figure out like, what are we going to do? And as soon as we had answers, we definitely had like peace. Like there was like this sense of peace, like, okay, God's got this. Even though it seems like really incredibly insane, like we just had this feeling like God's going to take care of this. So we knew that we had 4 weeks that we could financially afford to like move out of the house. And we actually had a rental house. We did like an Airbnb for a month, and we had one. And the Thursday before we were supposed to move in, we're going to move in on Monday. That Thursday, did I tell you this story already?
Yeah, I remember this. That was nuts.
They canceled on us because they had a family emergency.
Yeah.
And at this, like simultaneously, like literally as I got the call, I was writing this talk on. I was writing the talk on who is telling your story. Like, is fear telling your story? Is anxiety telling your story? Is depression telling your story? Like, or is God telling your story? And of course, as soon as like I'm like freaking out, I'm like, oh my gosh, like we have no place to go. Like we got 3 dogs, we got a cat, got 3 kids. Like, what are we gonna do? And I had like this passage, like my Bible opened to this passage in Isaiah, about like fear not, you know. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just like stopped for a minute and like prayed. And I'm like, I have to tell Chris. It was like the one thing I didn't want to do. I'm like, Chris is gonna flip. So I called Chris, and
he's the guy you want in that situation.
That's right. And he didn't like incredibly flip out. We were both just kind of like, okay, I don't know how this is gonna. Yeah, like I don't know how this is gonna work out, but. So, like, dropped the kids off at CCE up at the church, and like on the way back, I just sent a text to Chris, and I was like, you know what? Like, I just believe God's gonna provide for us. Like, He's provided before. I think He's gonna. Like, I know He's gonna provide again. And within 30 seconds, this lady that I had messaged on Airbnb was like, yeah, you can totally bring your dogs. Like, come on, you know, you can move in Monday. Mm-hmm. And we had this like, just complete like restoration of the situation, and it was complete restoration because the week before, or the weekend before, it was Super Bowl. And I had written like my prayers down about just like everything, like all of our needs, all of our thanks, you know. And I had never ever asked for a financial blessing for our family. Mm. Like I just never thought about asking for financial blessing. I never thought we needed a financial blessing. We need a financial blessing in the situation. Mm-hmm. Like, because we had no idea. I'm like, am I going to sell my kidney? You know, I only have one heart. I can't sell that.
Put that at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, it's kind of like put them at the bottom. Like, I got 2 lungs, okay. And I asked the Lord, I'm like, you know, can you bless us financially? Because I don't know how we're going to be able to afford this. And my husband ended up winning money for Super Bowl, like his, you know, whatever it is. You know what you guys do with like fantasy sports. I don't know. Which is funny because I always make fun of him for doing that. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's so lame. So lame. Why do you even do that?
It's not real.
It's not even real. Noonan Bears, okay. and then he won the exact amount of money that we needed.
Oh, wow.
To be able to afford the new Airbnb. Yeah. Because it was just that much more expensive. So we were able to, that's like the only reason why we were able to do it.
That's crazy. It's like that plus the fact that this person had it open for a month.
Right, a month.
Like no one had it booked.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So God's like, leave your husband alone.
Yeah,
let
yeah.
him do his thing.
Yeah, let him lead. Lady. So yeah. After that, we were just like, and I just remember like running to like my journal. I was like, I wrote this down. I wrote it down. Oh my gosh. I'm like, and it's like dropped to your knees, just like, oh my gosh, Lord, like you are so good.
Yeah,
you are so good. Yeah. So yeah, we spent a month in the rental house, and our friend Donnie Souza, who's like an awesome contractor, he lives in our neighborhood. We called him and we were like, okay, so here's like the massive list of things that we want done to the house. We don't know what we can afford because we don't know how much mold is in the house.
Yeah.
So we may just only be paying for the mold stuff, or we may be able to pay for more. Like we literally had no idea what we were going to be able to do. We just knew like we had to get the carpets out because they, you know, anything essentially that has fabric or wood, like everything got tossed. So, you know, mattresses, sheets, couches, carpet, rugs, tables, anything that has particle board. So like all of our IKEA furniture, you know, all that stuff. We clothes, like we had to get rid of everything. And so we told Donnie, like, here's what we need to do. Here's the situation. And I don't know any contractor that was going to, there was no natural way that we could have gotten things done in 4 weeks. Like, absolutely. Like, it was like a supernatural, like, blessing. Yeah.
Because I remember when y'all moved out, like, I came to help move for a day, and then y'all moved. And
we didn't even have anything like, we didn't even have stuff, like, packed, really. We were just, like, must move things.
Throwing it out. Put it in the, in the pod.
Yes.
But, like, I remember, like, I think it was, like, the third week, and you were mentioning like, oh, we're gonna move back in a week, and I was like, wait, what? Like, I figured y'all gonna be out for months.
Yeah.
And I was like, who did y'all hire? Super
Donnie.
man.
Super Donnie. That's your new name, Super Donnie. For real though, yeah. He was like, I mean, we had been wanting to renovate this house for a while. It was built in like the early 90s, so it had like original everything, and it was a blessing because we were able to buy it as a foreclosure. So we sort of like had the plans of like, okay, this is what we want to do and blah, blah, blah. And we were actually going to do it last summer. And there was like something that like the Lord was just like, not right now, like not right now. And if we would have done it, I probably would have gotten really, really sick because of all of the...
You just open everything up and you wouldn't have thought about getting
Yes. Away. Yeah. And that was one of the things, we were able to tell our kids and be like, this is like, look at the miracles God is doing. Like God is like miraculously, like supernaturally, like blessing our family. Like this is God. It's like not mom and daddy. It's not like Mr. Donnie. Like God is just pouring and pouring and pouring his blessings on us. So to be able to like share that with the kids is like, I would do it all over again,
Did you have like a mole person come in?
Yeah.
I assume you need to know where it is.
So we had, all through January and February, or no, December, January, we had like mold remediation specialists come in. We had like air testing stuff done. And because we had to figure out, is the insurance going to pay for it? Are we going to we didn't even know like what the process was. And yeah, it was like this whole long drawn out process. That was like the worst part for me. It was the part where it was like, I would have breakdowns because I'm like, I just need to get out of this house.
Yeah.
It's like, when you're like living in something that's like essentially like killing you. You're like, can I just go now? Like, can we just go? It's like, no, you have to wait for the insurance company. I'm like, Well, let me just rewind for a second. I don't have a huge attachment to like things. There are like a few things where I'm like, oh man, like I love that. I don't want to get rid of that. Like my piano. When we had to get rid of the piano, that was like breakdown central.
And all your handwritten stuff.
And all my handwritten stuff. Yeah. Yep. Way to bring that one up. No, just kidding.
Well, I just remember Erica, I didn't see it, but Erica brought it up because I think you put it on Instagram, and she just mentioned, she was like, I'm going to write back to her and be like, it's okay to feel this way.
Yep.
Break down, whatever you need to do, like,
yep.
It's legitimate.
And I think that's actually what my piano taught me. When I got that piano, it's a piano that I grew up playing on, and I had never written, before I wrote and done, I hadn't written anything on piano. I'd written everything on guitar. So I hadn't even played the piano in like probably 20 years. And I'd ask my parents, can I have my piano? And they were able to get it to me. And they moved it to this house. And after being able to like write on that, like from that point on, it was like this whole new world of like communication with God, like through playing that piano. So that piano really taught me like how to process things. Like I was able to process things differently, I think. So it's sort of this like relational piece that I have. It's like I have my husband and I have God and then I have my piano.
And then the kids.
And then my dogs but yeah, now I have to be like, okay, she's not going to be like in the room anymore, like when I'm writing, and it's like a whole new season. But I think writing songs on that piano like made me stronger because I was able to process like so much stuff, sitting there. So yeah, it doesn't mean it doesn't suck, because it does suck a lot.
It was only a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. And I guess, and it does make sense you know, I just, you know, you don't, I always think about like clothes and the stuff that's like, you know, my everyday like wearable stuff. Like I wasn't thinking like, oh man, like my piano, what? Big Blue?
Mm-hmm.
And I painted her, and my mom still doesn't know. Sorry, Mom. Sorry. I painted her. She's gorgeous, though. You would love it, I think.
Like she hasn't seen it since they brought it over here?
No.
That's funny.
No. Sorry. But yeah, mold, man. So I've been doing, on my second week of treatment this month, I'm feeling pretty good.
Uh-huh.
Not feeling terrible. Not feeling terrible is great. You know? So.
How about the fogginess?
I think it's better. I can tell, like, I can remember things that I couldn't remember before. Like, if Chris would ask me to do something, like, I would immediately have to write it down. Or he would have to tell me and be like, listen, go write this down. And then, like, look at it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, put a reminder. Like, I had, like, 5 million reminders in my phone. Where
It's like the movie Memento. Did you
yes.
ever see that? To tattoo everything on yourself.
Yes. Or I felt like it was, like, yeah. Tattooing everything on my body. I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, that's more money.
True.
Unless you got a friend.
It's not in the budget. It's not in the budget. Everything is about the budget now.
It's like, in like the beginning stages, did they try like a lot of things? Like, oh, we think it's this. Get on this, you know, medicine. But that's not it. Let's try this. Get on this medicine. Like different treatments, or
yeah.
did you go through a ringer with trying to figure out mold?
I just went through like lots of doctors. I grew up in a family that has a lot of people in the medical field. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I'm smart when it comes to what to ask doctors, what
Mm-hmm.
doctors to go to, you know, what to re-ask, and what to like sort of put pressure on. And I knew that it was autoimmune stuff. We have autoimmune stuff that like runs in our family. Our son has celiac. And so I knew what doctors to go to, but the doctors were not giving me any answers.
Mm-hmm.
They would say, oh, well, I think it's this, but I still had like all of these other, you know, symptoms. And they were essentially just attempting to treat, you know, whatever symptoms I was having. But I was having so many symptoms that no one would give me answers to
Mm-hmm.
why the other symptoms they wouldn't treat were going on.
Like treat the symptoms versus let's figure out why.
Right, yeah. And we honestly, like, we didn't tell a lot of people, like our in-laws were here a couple months ago, and they're like, you know, we had no idea. And I'm like, I know, like, no one really knew what was going on, primarily because like we didn't have any answers. We only had like, yeah, Danielle is going through like all of this crazy stuff, and people would be like, maybe she's crazy, you know. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. Or I knew that they would give like some sort of like, not my in-laws, but like in general, like people love to give unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like try an oil. Like, no, I don't need to try an oil. I need to know like what is going on in my body.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask that because like, I can't relate to that extent, but like I've had migraines my whole life, and so people would think it's just a headache. What are you talking about? It's like it's not just a headache. Or like, why don't you just take Advil or same thing? Like,
you can
have you
push
tried
through
this, or have you done this, or taken all these tests? I'm like, I've taken all these tests. Like, I'm tired of tests. And or people thinking like you're faking it or something, and.
You're like, that's not gonna put you in bed for 3 days. Like,
yeah. Like, did you have that experience? People were like, is she faking it? Like, or just like negative reactions to what you're going through?
No, but I didn't allow myself to have them.
Mm-hmm.
I just, because I knew if I did, I would probably just like flip out on someone, and it would be ugly. Like that's how much it affected me.
Like you wouldn't allow yourself to have them from other people? Like, what do you mean?
No, like I wouldn't, I mean, we didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You just didn't tell anybody.
So that helped.
Yeah, I mean, people were like, whoa, what? I'm like, yeah, I know, it's crazy. And not only do we not tell people, but it's like I wasn't even like asking for prayer, which, shame on me, it was like incredibly prideful, I think. Looking back, I got used to just trying to like be in like management mode, you know. So it's like Chris would do whatever he had to do in terms of like work or working from home or picking up the kids early. It was like this constant like juggling. And when you're in the middle of it, you're like, it's just life. You don't think about, you know, going, you know, telling people about, I went to this doctor, and then it was like, well, I went to another doctor. And after about 6 months, I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of times it's hard to hear people talk about being sick for so long, you know? I'm like, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like, it gave me this, like I felt so much compassion for people with invisible diseases, you know, because it's like a constant, like daily, sometimes like hourly struggle to just like survive and, you know, live a normal life. And
a lot of people you can't really talk to for feedback, because like the invisible stuff like that, or like depression or stuff like that, like you can't see it. And so to talk with someone who hasn't been through it, like, how can I explain this to you? But it'll be easier if you found someone who had the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was really tough. And I think one of the biggest blessings that came out of that was, after I had been in the hospital in Nashville, I had sent a text to like a handful of people, and I thought I was gonna die. Like, I'm like, can you please pray? I'm like, I'm super, super sick. And they knew I was like sick, that I wasn't feeling great. And I was going to lots of doctors and stuff, but I had never asked them for prayer. It's like so silly, because it's like what we do. You know what I mean? Like, we're prayerful people. Like, we're prayer warriors for like anyone that asks us for prayer. It's like, yes, like drop what you're doing. Like, this is what, you know, this is like what we're meant to do. And I was just like, oh, I can't believe I haven't done this before. Danielle, sinner.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, this is what's going on. I'm super sick. I don't know what's going to happen. I said, can you please pray for Chris? I asked for prayer for Chris. Because, I mean, I don't need healing, Chris. I was like, I did ask for healing. I was like, you know, pray for healing. But I said, specifically, can you please pray for Chris? Because he needs, like, give him, like, supernatural, like, abilities to comfort me and take care of the kids. Because I'm like, if I'm gone, he's gonna have to like take care of like, oh my God, he's gonna have to like take care of everything. But give him like supernatural like ability to comfort, because he's like not a natural comforter. He's a natural like fixer. Yeah. You know, so it's like he wants to like fix things. He sees a problem, he fixes it. It's like what his job is, you know? Yeah. And I was like, this is not gonna happen. Like, I can go to my girlfriend's for comfort. Like, he's just, if I ask him, like, give me a hug, like, of course, he's, like, gonna hug me, but he's not just, like, this, like I really feel like you need comfort right now, you know? Not Chris.
What's your receiving love language? Do you know all that stuff?
Gifts.
Gifts?
Yes. Okay. Gifts, and now, okay, yeah, if Chris watches this, he's gonna be like, liar! You're a liar! He was like, it changes every single month. That's what it changes. I feel like it has changed. Like, it used to just be gifts, that bird. Caw-caw, caw-caw. I got you. I'm like Ace Ventura. But now it's like gifts and acts of service, I think. And
what's his, do you know Chris. his showing love?
I don't remember. Memory, you know, it's like part of the whole thing.
Not words of affirmation?
He is not words of affirmation.
I'm not either.
Oh my gosh. He
so
could like
bad at
care less. I'm like, I'm so proud of you. He's like, thanks. I mean, yeah. What is his? His is quality time and physical touch.
For receiving?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, mine's quality time.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like easy because I always want to be around him.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I want to do this with him.
Oh,
Because I think
yeah.
like, you know, I had the experience of having Erica's postpartum depression of you know, being Chris.
Yeah.
And people don't see that, you
They
know,
don't.
or think about
Right.
it. And like, in that moment, I think those people, maybe even more than the person who is sick and needs to be taken care of, I think those people a lot do that. Like, I don't need prayer, I just need to like suck it up.
Yeah.
They're the ones suffering, so I need to suck it up and do what I need to do to take care of them. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
when
and
they
that has
need
to
the same stuff, like they need support, they need
That's exactly
all that.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and they also have to have the ability to process whatever is going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that is like they have to process it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we had been through this like before. I was on bed rest with James for like 4 months almost,
Mm-hmm.
and Lucas was 2.5. Chris is working full time, and I was in and out of the hospital. Had to have surgery when I was pregnant. Just like really, really tough. Probably 18 months. And I don't know how he does it, but he works downtown. Go pick up the kids in Sugar. I mean, just like he was doing all of this stuff, being like full-time mom, full-time dad, full-time consultant, and afterwards, probably about like 6 months, 9 months later, he was just like, that was like the worst. Like it was like the worst. Just like, I'm like, I had no idea. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't think like, oh my gosh, this has to be like so hard for him to watch me be sick.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, yeah. I think about that a lot. Like, I struggle with like the guilt of like being the sick one.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm like, hope you don't get sick. You know?
Cause you're on your own.
I'm a caretaker and all, but listen, we can't both be sick.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, yep.
I know you're like on the other end of this, but like, are you able to look back and see like, obviously in the beginning y'all didn't let a lot of people know, but can you see how what you were going through maybe if like affected you two, like your relationship, or even affected like the boys? If you want to see
Definitely
their mom going
affected
through
the
this?
boys.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris and I have always, I think because we got married so young and I mean, like in college, like we would just like play ping pong and hang out. We literally still could just play ping pong and hang out, you know? And sometimes I beat him, sometimes I don't. So in terms of like our relationship and stuff, I think it put, like on the physical aspect, I don't think it really put that much, like there wasn't that much change, but on like the emotional and just everyday stuff, it put like a huge burden on Chris because he had to take care of like school stuff, for instance, because, you know, if we had parent-teacher conferences, like I wouldn't be able to remember what she said or he said, you know, so he had to begin to like manage all of like the boys' sports schedules and all of the kids' classroom stuff, and remember, you know, that we need to bring napkins for the birthday party and like things like that, which he had like never had to do. It was always like super stereotypical, which we liked. It was like perfect work.
Yeah.
Like I take care of everything at home. I take care of the kids. He goes to work. He works. He comes home. We have family time. Like, and he never had to, you know, manage that stuff. And so I think that was a challenge. With the kids, I mean, I think it definitely affected them in an emotional way because I couldn't do things. like they would question like, okay, why is mommy going to the hospital again? Like, what's wrong with mom? You know, and they would come and see me in the hospital and stuff and be like, is she going to get better? And we didn't have answers for them. So for kids to know how to have answers, you know, like, is mom going to get better, or what's wrong with mom, or
how'd you handle that? Did you just say, oh yeah, she's gonna be better, or were we all just like honest, like we've got nothing?
Yeah, we were just really honest and we were like, we have no idea. Yeah, I mean, we were just always honest and factual, but we always told them, like, God has got this covered. Like, God's got this covered, you know, and it was their opportunity to be like intercessors for me, which is really beautiful, you know. So in the mornings, we do morning prayer every day before like the kids go to school. Like, they would always pray for me, like always pray for me. And so now we can like look back and be like, see what God did. Yeah. Like, see the prayers
you played a part.
Like, you played a part in this, you know.
What's their reaction to that?
They're like, whoa, that's cool. Can we go play on the Xbox? You know, that's
good to know, Mom.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's exciting for them. And I think this is what, I think experiences like this are the experiences that the next generation needs to like have a church on fire. You know, I think that they have to go through painful things and suffering. And I remember, you know, I went through a lot of painful things when I was little. And I remember becoming a parent thinking like, I will never let my kids suffer. I will never let my kids suffer like I did, you know, ever, ever, ever. Like, I don't want them to feel pain. I don't want them to like feel like I am not available to them, or I'm not, or they can't trust me, or and now I'm like, wait a second. One, there's no way that can even happen, but it's not possible. But those are actually like very, very purposeful things, you know, and it's all how you parent and process things together. Because if you're looking at, you know, the domestic church and building saints and thinking about like, okay, when I'm gone, like, what does the church look like? What kind of disciples are they going to be? Like, they have to have a story, and they have to be able to like pull from their experiences of, okay, like, how did God move? And if no one teaches them like how God is moving and showing them how God is moving and showing them miracles and showing them like supernatural, you know, things that are going on like in their day-to-day life, like they're not going to know. So now I think like, I just think, I don't know, God is just, he takes like every single like piece of us and is like, let me show you what I can do, you know? And I think looking back now, it can, kind of celebrate that together. For me, it's always like, if we can do it together, then that's the biggest blessing, you know?
What are you seeing now that makes you say that's what the next generation needs? Because there's something you see now where you're like, this is happening, so I know they need to, you know, stop being protected from bad experiences or you know, overbearing parents. Like, this is what they need, and I know that because I see this.
Yeah. I think it's because I see so much suffering. I think I've always sort of seen that as like a little, I mean, since I was young, I've always been very, like, sensitive to, like, the people around me and like the circumstances around me and how people are being affected by certain things. And I think one of the ways to disciple is to pull from our own, you know, our own life experiences. And there's clearly, you know, a lot of suffering going on, and in our culture immediately says, well, God's not real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, why would he let this happen, or why would he let this happen, or this, that, and the other, and it's easy for people to do that because you skip over the process. You skip
Mm-hmm.
over the moments of being able to see, like step back for a second, like see what God did,
Mm-hmm.
see what God did here. And I think that's what the church needs. I think the church needs, and I see it so much now, people just sort of like pulling back and being more, I think, insightful about what's going on around them, specifically like in the world. How can
Mm-hmm.
they be a part of it? What's their part in this? What's God's part in this? And to be able to make traction and to be able to grow disciples, and connecting with that key part, like the key part of suffering,
Mm-hmm.
is important. You know, it's a key piece to everyone's story. You know,
Yeah.
everyone suffered. You know, it's how you sort of dig into that suffering and see where God was. And sometimes you need people to tell you where he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because sometimes you're just so far in it that you can't see it.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of kids I want to raise.
So like being able to see, not just not running away from suffering, but also being able to see like the value in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you need to, I mean, yeah, for kids, you know, it's easy to put value on, you know, where I want my kids to go to college.
Mm.
And then they like get in, they're like, whew, checked off the list.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think what it's taught us as parents is we want our kids to be able to have the kind of character that that doesn't rush through things so quickly as our culture does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be able to take all of the parts of their story and all of the parts of their hearts and see kind of like what God does with them. And it's difficult because that's not what our culture is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
giving them.
Yeah. What would you say is the value of what you went through? What's the value of the suffering you just went through? Or is it too soon to see?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's almost immeasurable, because when I was the sickest, that's when I heard God the most.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have experienced like other times in my life of like significant suffering where I didn't hear like the voice of God.
Mm-hmm.
But like in this like particular season, I mean, it was like God was doing something I haven't, like I haven't processed yet. Like I'm still trying to figure out like, okay, like what is this? Like, what are you doing here? Because he would be so audible that it was like I almost just wanted to stay sick because I could hear him so loudly. Like I remember like this specific day of like being like, okay, if this what, because he would give me these words for other people, and then I would like share the words with people, and they would just be like, because I would always be like, does this make sense to you?
Yeah.
Because he would tell me like very specific things, and being able to like give those to other people and have them just being like God is so good, like God is so good, like yes, like everything I would say would make sense, and I'd be like like, that's not me. Like he became like very, very real in like a new, very like new way. Like in a way it was like she like dropped to my knees like I'm not worthy. It's like he had a new job for me. And I'm still trying to figure out like, what does that mean? You know? So this was definitely like the hardest season I think I've ever been through, but the most the craziest. God's done the craziest things like in this season.
I talked with a friend, Matt Cranley, and a couple other people just about artists, whether it's, you know, painting, or whether you're like an artist where you use different mediums of like painting or drawing or whatever. But especially in musicians, there's like singers or songwriters, or even comedy, like comedians. It seems like people who are into some form of art, those people are like you said, are very sensitive to what's going on around them. Because usually they pick up on that, and then that's what that's what comes out. Yeah. So did and or how did all this affect your art, your music, your writing, your singing?
I think it definitely.
Or vice versa. How did your art, help you? Both questions.
I mean, it helped me process a lot. There's a lot of things that I can't do, or I probably could, but I feel like I do it best through writing and worshiping specifically. There were a lot of days where I would just have like worship sessions at my piano, and like messy, ugly crying.
By yourself, like
yeah, but that's where the honest, all of the honest stuff comes out. And when I knew God was really like clear about writing for this like new project or whatever, but I just remember thinking like I know you want me to do this, but it's like so hard. It was so it's like what I do for a living, so, but it's like the writing, the creative part like wasn't hard. It was like getting out of bed was hard to be able to like write and process things. So it made it more challenging, but at the same time it made it, I think, much more fruitful, because it became like very real, very, very honest. And it was like super lonely, and it made me realize like it's not like I can only rely on God. He's like the only one who gets it. He's the only one that understands. He's already been through it.
Like going through the sickness was lonely?
Yeah. Well, and just it's very like isolating, because you can't just do stuff. You want to. It's like you have the desire. And I'm an extrovert, so staying in the house all the time like torture makes you go, it's just like, and I would go like lay out in the grass. I'd be like, vitamin D, I need you, like help me, because my mom's always like, oh, just go lay out in the sunshine, it fixes anything. Like, you got a broken arm, go lay out in the sun. And it actually like it does actually help you. Thanks, Mom. But I think just that I'm so thankful I have the ability to process things creatively, because it's just it's just such a gift. I don't know, like I think about my husband Chris, who's like completely opposite. I'll be like, how do you process things? Like, how do you do that? It's like, well, I don't know, I just do.
It's up here.
It's just like, and then it's like, and then it comes out and it's like all in this like pretty, very straight edged box. And I'm like, wow, how did you do that?
Got a flow chart,
That's
pie chart.
amazing. And I'm like, I got paper here. I got mascara all over my face. Like, I got coffee stains. I got like wine glasses. I got like all this stuff. And I'm like, where's my pen?
What about your faith? I mean, you obviously expressed how much it got you through. But like, I mean, you mentioned times where like you thought like that was it. Like, this is the thing that's gonna do me in.
Yeah.
Like, pause on that. Did you ever, in the moment, like during all that, did you ever share that with Chris? Like, you thought like, this is what's gonna do me in. So.
No, I can't. I don't think so. I don't think we had like that conversation. I think it was just in my head, like I don't think I was brave enough to ask him, like, do you think, like, because I don't think he ever realized like how, like, there were symptoms that I wouldn't tell him for like, I'm talking like months, because it was just like too scary, like the arm thing, like. And that's when, I mean, I was really like asking for prayer for Chris, because I'm like, I'm gonna have to tell him my arms aren't working.
Yeah.
Like, I can't have him freak out. Like, I can't have him freak out.
Yeah.
You know, which
So
is
how
like
did he react?
not trusting God at all.
Yeah.
Like, I just was not trusting God. Like, God had Chris covered, completely covered, and I like was not trusting him. And it's like we were having like all of these like intense conversations, God and I. And I'm like, I'm not even thinking, like, God is like literally like speaking like through me, and I don't think he's gonna take care of Chris.
Yeah.
Like, how ridiculous are you, Danielle Noonan? Like, you are so, like, you got some problems. So yeah, there were, we just never had that conversation, which I think ended up being a blessing, because I think if we would have started talking about it, I think I probably would have gone down a road where I would have believed it. You know, because the enemy is just like,
Yeah. He's like, there's my in.
there's
All
my
right.
in, there's my in. And anytime I would get like super just like funky, Chris would be like, nope, come on, like, remember what God did for you. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You know?
It's back to your faith. Like, did it, throughout this whole thing, was it always strong? Did you ever,
No.
obviously, you
No,
mentioned,
I was like,
trusting was
what
an
is
issue
going
sometimes,
on?
But yeah.
I'm like, you tell me I'm supposed to like write music. Like, you're very clear about that I'm supposed to be like traveling. I'm like, how am I supposed to be doing that? That does not make sense to me.
Yeah. It literally stops you from.
Yeah, it literally like stops me from doing like what you've asked me to do. So I don't know how I'm supposed to be doing this. It was like super frustrating.
I think the week I came over, you had just had to cancel something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I never had to cancel anything for like a gig, or like an event or anything. But for, I mean, I've had to I had to cancel trips for like writing with people and, you know, studio sessions and stuff like that, where I'm just like, oh gosh, like, how are we going to do this? But everyone that, like, he put, like, through, like with new relationships and stuff, everyone was just, like, so, like, compassionate and understanding. And this season, like, that season of writing, it was, like, new everything, like, new producer, new friendships, like, new all kinds of stuff. And I was, like, really, like, intimidated, I think, because I wasn't recording. I mean, I was going into studios like I had never been in, and meeting people that are like these incredible writers that have written like Grammys and all of these things, and I'm like, I'm just a girl from Texas, you know. And I was like, I'm not cut out for this. Like, I'm not I don't hustle. Like, I'm not a hustler. I'm like, they're just gonna have to take me, like,
Just a girl from East Texas with a mold
like
issue.
they're just, yeah, I just got mold, y'all. But really, I think it made me, like, be like, like I couldn't be extra. Like I didn't have the energy to be extra. So I'm like, well,
here's what you got.
Here's authenticity. Hope you like me. The more and more I stuck to God's plan, even though I was like super frustrated and irritated and I threw a lot of pity parties, the more that I just did what he asked me to do and stayed obedient. That word obedient has been my word. Because I always tell my kids, like, well, you know, you're being disobedient. And then God's like, you're being disobedient. But just to like stand in obedience with what God has like told me to do, even though I'm just like, I don't even know if I believe what you're saying right now, you know? And the more and more that I did that, the more visible he was, you know, through, you know, just all my weeks and days, and the more audible he became. Definitely a roller coaster of emotion. And I think that's what it really comes down to, is that it's not about your emotions and how you're feeling. It's about the fact that like God provides for you, you know, and you have to move past like what you're feeling to be able to sort of see what God's doing right in front of you.
So how would you maybe guide someone that is like going through what you went through? Maybe not the exact same issue, but they don't know what's going on and they're sick and in the moment they don't have answers. And how would you guide someone through that?
I would tell them to find like one person that will speak truth into their lives. Because there's a lot of people that will be like, oh gosh, this like totally sucks. Everything sucks. Everything sucks. I'm sorry.
Everything is terrible.
Everything is terrible. Gosh. You know? And you don't need, like, you need someone to be like, put your big girl panties on, pull them up, like, get your Bible out, like, and speak, like, biblical truth into your life. Because so often, like, the enemy will just, like, come in strong and just keep you so, and it could be years. I mean, I was sick for 3.5 years. You know, I'm like, I guess this is just my life now, you know?
What about someone, because one thing I've been talking about with Erica and just like issues in the world now, like people say, like pull your boots up by your bootstraps.
Right.
So like the question is, well, what about people who don't have boots?
Yeah.
So then, like you said, big girl panties. So I'm assuming those are like faith-filled big girl panties.
Oh, yeah.
So what if it was someone who didn't have the big girl panties? What if it was someone who didn't? This is the weirdest
Then you borrow
analogy.
your girlfriend's.
What if it was someone who didn't have faith? Maybe you're not even believing God.
Yeah.
How then would you guide someone?
I think you can still speak that truth. Speak, there is goodness. There is goodness in every single thing that happens in our life. Every single thing. And you remind them of the goodness that has happened, you know, previously. You don't have to, like, you know, put all the icing of, you know, on the cake and just like smother it with, like, you know, Jesus. Like, Jesus is already in the goodness that you're speaking. You know, and I'm not saying go down the road of, you know, moral relativism, you know, but to be able to remind them that, like, there is good. You know, there is good. Yeah.
Being, like, attentive to where they're at and coming from there.
Because a lot of people are, like, they can get blinded by their suffering, and all there is just like, this is like so terrible, and they can't see out of the box. Like, they can't see, like, the wide view. And that's just what happens. Everyone gets there. And if you haven't, it's coming. You know? So surrounding yourself with people who can be honest and loving and firm in their convictions is important. You know?
How would you guide, advise, whatever the word is, someone who didn't get through it the way you're getting through it. Like, went through the ringer, doctors, treatments, all that stuff, and it was the thing that was going to end them.
Yeah.
And let's just say this is a faithful person and stuff like that. Like, how would you guide someone like that? Like that is going to be their end. Like, there is no question.
Sure.
How would you advise them? Where's God in that? Because people look at that and say like, well, they got through it, but it's not working out for me. So, where's God? I don't hear anything. Where's the blessing?
Right. You know? I think a lot of times, I don't know how necessarily, I would advise someone who got, a terminal illness diagnosis. I don't think I'm skilled in that level.
Well, I think I mean more like, obviously neither of us are a professional counselor, but like someone who's like, you're a friend.
Yeah.
Like someone you're with, you already have a relationship with. Like, how would you walk with them through it? I think that's a better phrase.
I think I would speak less and listen more. I think a lot of times people like to skip to the, but God is good. But God is good. Like, yes, God is good. But right now I feel like, I want to rip his throat out. And I think letting people process the way that they process things, like I've had like a couple people be like, oh, because I use a lot of humor just to like soften the blows of the world. Like, it's just how I do things. It doesn't mean that I don't process things. Sometimes I process things slower, sometimes I process things faster. But like, I think we all deserve to not skip through, grief or struggle. I think allowing yourself to like go through each step, and maybe sometimes being that reminder for, other people. But I think what I've learned through my experience is that sometimes people just want to talk and to listen to them, and to ask them like, do you want my advice?
Yeah, do you even want it?
Do you want my advice? Which I've begun to say, do you want my advice? Because a lot of people will just start talking and you don't want their advice. I'd be like, not today, I don't want it. I think it takes someone who has really worked on themselves, because many times people will give their advice from the wounds that they are still kind of like working on and dealing with. And coming from your wounds isn't gonna be helpful for anyone. So everybody's just working on themselves. Everybody's work on themselves.
Yeah. You gave advice for people going through it, like find at least one person who can speak truth, love into your life. What about people, let's say someone who's married, what would your advice be for them? The person who's suffering, or the person who's taking care of the sick person or the one taking care of them. How would you advise them to look after the children in the picture?
To try and keep things as normal as possible, and to keep things on schedule, and to be honest about what they're feeling. And when I was in counseling one time, my counselor said, because I said, she's like, what are you worried about? Because I told her, I was like, I don't want my kids to suffer. And she's just like, okay, not gonna happen. But I said, I'm worried I'm gonna break down in front of the kids. And she's like, well, what if that happens? I was like, well, I don't know.
Just any other advice? Like people going through
Oh, I got lots. I got lots.
People, I'm asking
What's
for
next?
It. People who like know someone who's going through it, people who are going through it, related to, friends with.
I don't know.
What about people who are like, I don't know what to say, so...
Don't say anything. Just kidding. I don't know.
I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to go over there. That'll be awkward. I'm uncomfortable, so
Yeah.
I don't want to make them uncomfortable.
Well, I think you also have a responsibility as like the sick person. Like I tend to be a frank person, you know. And most people that I hang out with, most people that I enjoy hanging out with, no, I'm just kidding. To understand, like, you can come to my house. I may not have a bra on. The kitchen might be dirty. You know, yes, I will have a bottle of wine for you. And if I'm tired, you can't get offended if I go lay down. You know, like, you can still hang out here.
Yeah.
But, like, those are the types of people that, you know, I surround myself with. And I think that's important. I think it's important to, like, have a community of people surrounding you who maybe you don't see them every single day. Like, I don't see Erica every single day, but like I love Erica, and like I know that like I can talk to her, I can ask for prayer, like we can be super honest, and at the end of the day, like, we have a sisterhood that is really, really strong and powerful, you know. But it's so important. Like, I think people miss that, you know, when they get into like a funk or they have a chronic illness. It's like so easy to be isolated, but you have a responsibility as just a person, chronic illness, not chronic illness, to like have your hand full. My friend Jill always says, like, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most, you know. Which, thanks, Jill. I tell my kids that now.
So then what's the responsibility of the people on the outside? Well, within the community you have around you, what's their responsibility?
Just, I mean, anything from like, like, you know, a text. Be like, hey, just want to let you know I'm praying for you. You know? Just like simple. You do like, you do just like what you can do, and then like God takes care of the rest. You know?
Do it.
But do it.
I learned from Matt Reget's story how people ask, like, when there's like a death or someone's sick or something, they're like, oh, let me know if you need anything, let me know if you need this or that, and his message was always like, just do it.
Yeah. Because
their mind's elsewhere, they're not going to think about it, so just visit.
Yeah.
Just show up. If they're too sick, they'll tell you, and then you can just leave. Or if you want to mow their lawn or do something, cook them dinner, just do it. If they have enough food, it goes in the freezer. You know, like just do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's there's like no way of getting around the awkwardness of grief and stuff like that. Like, it just is. It just is. It's like, you know, the way life is. But I think that's the most powerful part, is the intention, even though it's like a struggle and you don't have the right words. And like you fumble over things, and like maybe something's awkward, maybe someone's crying and you're like, oh my God, they're crying. What do I, you know?
It's the worst that could happen.
It's the worst. Gosh, so emotional. Gosh. But yeah, just to do it. Just to freaking do it. I'll never forget when it was like the 1-year anniversary of my sister's death. And I remember I sent a text to my friend Johnny and Dave. And I was just like, hey, can you just pray for a family? And this was probably like a few months before like the 1-year anniversary. And they were just like, they were just the sweetest. They had been like texting me just throughout like the whole year, touching base about, you know, my heart and stuff. And on the day, and I don't even know how they remembered. But they sent me a text on the day of the 1-year anniversary of my sister's death. And it was just like real simple, like, hey, I just want to let you know, we're praying for you, we're thinking about you. And I was like, my head, like it just like blew our minds, because I'm like, no one, I can't even remember like my brothers and sisters' birthdays. You know what I mean? Like, those are things, like, dates are really, really hard for me to remember. But I'm like, oh, God, like, that just made, like, this huge impact of, like, thank you so much. You know, like, just, like, the simplest, like, little thing, you know. But, you know, it's things like that where now, like, and because of that, I try to be, like, much more intentional. You know, it's because of those gifts from other people where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, super nice of you, you know?
Yeah.
So I just steal from other people. Essentially what.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't?
That's all I got for you. Yummy.
What are you drinking? We're drinking tea this time. I don't think I've had tea yet. What are you having? I'm having jasmine something.
I'm having
jasmine something.
lavender citrus, and it's delicious.
No, jade. I had jade something.
You had jade peppermint. Yes. Well done.
Cool. Thanks for giving me your time. Hey, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Danielle. Please look below in the description. You can find her social media, and I'm going to put a link to her music page, so you can go and you can purchase her music. You can just follow all the great things she's doing.
She just talks and talks and